All right, look, let's bring this guy on, Zander, if you might, live from NovaCare. He's kind enough to join me, and that's, of course, the great Sal Paolantonio, the host of the NFL Matchup Show and the author of How Football Explains America. Sal, how are you?
It's a rainy, cold South Philadelphia, and the storm clouds are over this football team. Fittingly, the weather fits the metaphor, or the metaphor fits the weather, whatever you want to do, Pat.
Yeah.
You can. This is a Nathaniel Hawthorne novel at this point.
Well, give me your take, Sal, on it. I mean, I don't want to, not the statistics. I'm going to ask you about the statistics in a minute. But I just framed it as your typical wide receiver diva-hood here for a team that's 11-2. Do you think it's any deeper than that?
I do, actually, Pat. There is some diva element to this. But how do you define diva? It's a guy on a team that usually is the wide receiver who's not getting enough attention on the football field. This is a run-based offense. They have more called run plays per week than any other team. Thus, the volume has gone down to A.J. Brown. But if you dig a little bit deeper on A.J. Brown, let's dig a little bit deeper. And I sent you these numbers a little earlier this afternoon. Hurts is completing 72% of his passes thrown to A.J. Brown, averaging 12.5 yards per attempt, both the highest in their 3 seasons together. Brown is accounting for 32% of the Eagles' targets in 10 games he's played this season. That's the highest percent of his career. 32% of the targets go to A.J. Brown.
Right.
But when your volume is down, your production is down, and you're not getting the passing yards and points out of the passing game, it's a problem overall with the team. So I was just at A.J. Brown's locker about half hour ago. Brown talked to the media, giant scrum. If you go on to my Instagram, SalPal ESPN, I actually took a 1-minute video just of the media.
All right.
There were 36 cameras around him. And he tried to walk it back. He was in damage control mode. He basically said that he got the message out so that the problem would be fixed. Now, there's a first.
Yeah.
Use the dreaded Philadelphia media
right.
to get your point across to your coaches.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know, Pat. It's a very, very dicey situation. Nick Sirianni held his weekly Wednesday morning team meeting. He said they tried to air it out a little bit. Jalen Hurts said relationship is good with A.J. Brown. The word was good, not great. I just think there is an issue here. And, Pat, they've only scored 17 points in the first quarter.
Right.
The whole season.
Yep.
That's the lowest in the National Football League.
Yep.
You can't go into the postseason like that, Pat. I'm sorry.
There you go, Sal. There you go. You are right in what you just said. And obviously the lack of scoring in the first quarter is tied to the fact that they're not getting any real chunk plays, certainly none out of the passing game. And that which would move the ball more rapidly down the field and enable you to grab those first quarter points. You know what
yes, I mean? And I've been the host of the Matchup Show for 23 years. I was brought onto the show by my friend and great film guru, Ron Jaworski. And he would pound it into my head, Pat. You pass in the first quarter, you pass on first down. In the first quarter, you get vanilla defenses. You get the setup that you need. Teams adjust in the second, third, and fourth quarter. On first down, you get a vanilla defense. You throw on first down, you throw in the first quarter, you get the lead, you turn your pass rush loose. That's how you win games. You throw to score, you run to win.
All right. Sal, when we get back, I'm going to get into the passing game with you. But one question, though, before we get to the break is last week, the Eagles played, let's face it, it was a letdown game. That's the way I think it turned out, sandwiched between Baltimore and Pittsburgh. In comes Carolina. And I'm telling you, Sal, you were there. They almost lost that game. They came within a Xavier Legette drop of losing that game. And I think the whole team was aware of it going into the locker room after the game, and I think no one was satisfied. Do you think that was more or less a trigger as to what happened this week?
Sure. Without a doubt. And when I asked Nick Sirianni what his message to the team was, he said he went back to the 3 core values: toughness, preparedness, details, and togetherness. And he repeated it to me 4 times: toughness, details, togetherness, and with an emphasis on togetherness. They've got to come together and fix this. You know why? Russell Wilson loves playing in Philly. He loves playing the Eagles. He's 6-0 against the Eagles. The Eagles have never beaten Russell Wilson. He's 4-0 in Philadelphia, 9 touchdown passes, 1 interception. Passer rating of 120.
Yeah.
He loves coming here. When I saw him last week, he pointed me out in the press conference, talked about coming to Philadelphia. I'm coming to your town, Sal. He loves coming to Philly.
Yeah, that's interesting because the Pittsburgh Steelers don't. And so it'll be an interesting dichotomy as to which one happens. So when we get back, I'm going to ask Sal to delve into this passing game and a very, very unique statistic that I want to run by Sal relative to the Eagles being the only team in the league that does this. We're going to do all that, and we'll get around the league too with Sal. I want to talk to him about the playoff picture. We'll do that too when we get back here on This Week in Pro Football, presented by Kennedy Auto. All right, welcome back. This Week in Pro Football here on JAKIB Sports. Pat Callahan, joined by the excellent Sal Paolantonio from ESPN and the host of the NFL Matchup Show. And Sal, looking through my ESPN.com football stats, I'm struck by the fact that the Eagles are one team out of 32 who average more rush yards per game than passing yards. In today's NFL, that's almost unbelievable. But the Eagles average 191 yards rushing each game, and they average 180 passing, which you just think nobody could do. Now, so is the passing game is part, or how large a part of the passing game's inadequacy is due to the fact that Saquon is so dominant?
Pat, when you were reciting those statistics, I was getting weepy. I was thinking of Chuck Mersine. I was thinking of Paul Hornung. I was thinking of Jim Anderson. Chuck Mersine, the great fullback for the Green Bay Packers.
That's correct.
In the Ice Bowl, Chuck Mersine was the guy that got them down to the 1 yard line. Come on, Pat. Come on.
That's right, Sal. That's right.
Pat, come on. So
waiver wire from the Giants.
The Eagles are playing 60s and 70s football. They have turned back the clock. And can you win in today's NFL? Can you win like that? Well, it depends on who you're playing and where you're playing. So if you're telling me they got to go to Detroit and play in Ford Field where the Lions average 34 points a game, I don't see how they can do it.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're telling me, can they beat the Steelers here? I mean, they're favored by 4.5, which is astonishing to me. And it really is, given the fact that Russell Wilson has had so much success against the Eagles. I know the Steelers haven't won in Philadelphia since 1965, October 24th, 1965. They've lost 10 straight, but that's over a long period of time, going back decades. Russell Wilson in particular loves playing here, and he's a 4.5-point dog. And, Mike Tomlin, as an underdog, has won 5 straight outright.
Tomlin is an outstanding coach. You and I were talking about this a few weeks ago, the fact that he's never even won a Coach of the Year.
How is that possible?
I know. Isn't it an amazing thing? The guy's 191 and 113 as a head coach, 628 winning percentage.
I sent you Mike Tomlin's press conference.
Yeah.
I could listen to Mike Tomlin read the Manhattan phone book.
Yeah. Yeah, Mike Tomlin he's an extraordinary coach, and it's an organization that doesn't make a mistake at the head coaching job. It's very admirable the way the Steelers do it. Sal, I want to ask you this though. Much was made last week in the media about Jalen Hurts seemingly reluctant to pull the trigger in a number of plays against Carolina, where he's got the time to throw. The receiver's breaking open or the receiver's making his turn. The ball is not being released. The Saquon issue aside, how do you see the Eagles' passing game? And is it something that they could all of a sudden just, snap their fingers and turn around?
No, they got to turn it around because you're right. All you got to do is go on the internet and look at Brian Baldinger, Look at Dan Orlovsky. Look at some of those guys who break down film in detail. Greg Cosell, my compadre on on the NFL Matchup Show, and they will show you sail routes, deep over routes, deep post routes where A.J. Brown is wide open, and they have a passing concept where they layer a slot receiver, a receiver wide, a receiver crossing. They got a guy in the flat, a guy in the middle, and a guy deep. And usually it's A.J. Brown deep, and usually he's open. And Jalen Hurts has got to figure out how to pull a trigger as quickly as possible. You know, we talk about throwing guys open, throwing to windows.
Right.
And, you know, he's just never been that good at that.
Yeah.
Whereas Goff, Matthew Stafford, they are window throwers. Brock Purdy's a window thrower.
Yep. And you know what, Sal, too, struck me looking at all these stats? The Eagles average 181 pass yards a game. Jalen Hurts has been sacked 36 times. All right. As an example, or as a contrast, Josh Allen of the Bills has been sacked 13. All right. And he's thrown the ball at least 100 over 100 times more than has Jalen Hurts. Is this also a fact?
Josh Allen has over 100 more pass attempts, and he's got one third the sacks.
Right. Exactly. So is that also not an indictment of the fact that Hurts is either holding on to the ball too long, or just that the Eagles' passing game is stale?
You know, I'm going to go with holding on the ball too long. I pick answer A because it's evident in the numbers. He holds the ball too long.
Right.
He holds the ball the second longest of any quarterback right now in the NFL, and the other one just hurt his knee and got carted off the field.
Yeah.
So it's a problem. And
so,
you know, but what happened this week? To go back to the drama, it was a self-inflicted wound. They brought it on themselves. A.J. Brown, you know, in my opinion, I never played professional football, but I've been on teams before, and I've been around enough teams to know it's not something that you air your grievance for outside of your locker room to the public, to cameras. And then Brandon Graham in a radio interview should just know better.
Yeah.
He's the most experienced veteran on the team. He's never made a mistake even close to this.
Right.
Why he would pick this time? The only explanation is that he did it on purpose.
Yeah. Sal, I thought the same thing, Graham. It was inexplicable what he did there. And you're right. You would think to yourself, he just wanted to light a fuse. I don't know.
No, light a fuse or just, you know, shine a light on a problem.
Yeah, right.
So
okay, shine. It's a better analogy. Right.
Yeah, shine a light on a problem. No one has proven that, and it's just pure speculation on my part. It's not something I would report.
Right.
But in conversation with you, I just wonder because he has been the straightest of arrows, the perfect teammate,
right,
an all-time great. His number will be retired when he retires from the Eagles. He'll go up there on the Ring of Honor.
Right.
It's just a mistake he doesn't make. So he must have done it on purpose.
Sal Pal, about Sunday's game, it's just coincidence that 4 years ago, Pittsburgh came in here into Philadelphia, and it was almost the same circumstance. A.J. Brown was very unhappy, and he had made it known he was unhappy. And lo and behold, 3 touchdown passes in the first quarter against the Steelers, the last time Pittsburgh was in here. Now, I think with really the Carolina game as an impetus, I think the Eagles are going to come out like hellfire Sunday against Pittsburgh. How do you see it?
This Pittsburgh team is different. They got a very good defense. They got Minkah Fitzpatrick back there. Their secondary is very well coached. They'll come out like hellfire. If A.J. Brown has 3 touchdown passes in the first quarter,
right,
we're moving on. We're going to Belichick it. We're moving on to Washington.
Right. But I at least think the Eagles as a team are going to recognize that the Carolina game was almost a week off, and I think they are going to come out strong. But what you just said there is interesting. I think the Steelers will be ready for that, right? I think Tomlin will have them ready
Minka Fitzpatrick is one of the smartest, toughest safeties in the National Football League.
Yeah.
He's the guy that runs that defense. And they got two really good defensive tackles. Really good.
Yep.
Cameron Hayward and his partner in crime there, they are terrific.
Yeah,
they're going to give that Eagles offensive line a lot of problems.
Yeah.
The Eagles will have to run on the edges away from Cameron Hayward. Do not take that guy on.
All right. Sal, talking about running now, there's been enormous discussions, obviously, all season about Saquon. And in recent weeks, there had been pointed discussions about his pursuit of Eric Dickerson's record. I think that's taken a little bit of a back seat right now. But do you think it's still something that the Eagles have on their mind?
I think it is something that I had in mind. But in the locker room today, I asked both Jordan Mailata and Landon Dickerson whether it was something that was in their aspiration to do. And both of them really said, hey, it's about winning games. But a very interesting quote in the Philadelphia Inquirer on Monday morning. If you go back and look at the post-game stories, Saquon goes up to Jordan Mailata, and Saquon had just set the Eagles' single-season rushing record, beating LaShawn McCoy. And Saquon goes up to Jordan Mailata and says, quote, let's go get ED. Let's go get Eric Dickerson.
How about that? Yeah.
I tried to get somebody to admit that today, and nobody would. But it's in black and white in the Inquirer. Let's go get ED.
He needs
Barkley, what does he need?
He needs 482 yards in 4 games. That's right about where his average is.
I think he wants to do it in 3. If he does it in 3, it adds an air of legitimacy to
I agree with you,
did in
Sal.
16 games.
I agree with you wholeheartedly about that. I think you're right about that.
3. All right? You're I'm going to ask the CFO. 482 divided by 3. What is it?
It's 160. So he's got to.
I knew you would know off the top of your head.
He's got to do 160. That's not easy to do.
That's not easy right there. No.
Pittsburgh, Washington, and Dallas. Dallas will mail it in. But I don't
Giants, because with the next 3, Yep.
Yep. All right,
That's
Sal
tough.
Pal, I want to get around the league with you here. We have a few minutes left. I wanted to get around the league with you here, if I might. Zander, if you could bring up that playoff schedule. Sal, what I'd like to do is, based upon what happened last week and the like, let's start quickly with the AFC. The Chiefs win another one of those games, which is what they do, Sal. And now they have a tough one this week at Cleveland. Buffalo, meanwhile, has to go to Detroit. Is the 1 seed basically over in the AFC?
It looks like that for sure because of the schedules. I think the 1 seed is over. I don't see any. I think it's tough for Buffalo to beat the Lions at Ford Field.
Yeah.
The Lions score 34 points a game at Ford Field.
Yeah.
And Buffalo just went out to L.A. and allowed Matthew Stafford to go up and down the field.
I know. That was crazy. That was a crazy game. He tore them up, and they won by 2 points. Josh Allen is, in fact, an alien, as Sean McVay described him. Sal, in the NFC, it's going to be tough for the Eagles to catch Detroit. I've been asking you throughout the more recent shows as we focused on the playoffs, whether anybody really scares you besides Detroit. Talk about passing game, given that the Packers passing game makes the Eagles look like the 99 Rams. Are you still at all concerned about Green Bay or even Minnesota at this point?
I'm concerned always about Green Bay. They just seem to play the Eagles very tight. The other team, I'm going to say it, the Bucks. The Bucks have a great passing game. They do. Yeah, and the Bucks lit up the Eagles.
Yep.
Baker Mayfield will be a tough out in the playoffs. He will.
All right.
I mean, that game, if it holds now, as you're looking at it, as I'm looking at your playoff picture here on This Week in Pro Football, and of course, this is a major violation of the show, but we'll do it anyway. Bucks at Vikings, that's a game I'm watching. That is a game I am watching.
Yeah, interesting. So who do you like in the NFC West? That is a absolute crapshoot out there. Seattle has a 1-game lead right now over Los Angeles and Arizona. I just don't believe it. I don't believe in the Cardinals at all. Do you think Arizona can limp to the finish? I mean, Seattle can limp to the finish line here?
Well, their defense is pretty good, Pat. Look at the numbers.
Yeah.
They're very good at taking the ball away. Their pass defense is good. Mike McDonald, who came from Baltimore, has turned around that defense just in the last 6 weeks. If Geno Smith doesn't turn the ball over, they'll beat the Packers at home. Looking at if they're the 3 seed, the Packers have to go there. They will beat the Packers. Their defense is good enough to beat the Packers.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm not at all sold. I think Jordan Love has seriously regressed. I like that. Yeah, that Bucs Vikings game. You're right. That would be a heck of a game if 2024 Sam Darnold keeps showing up.
Yeah, for sure.
But all right, Zander, thank you.
Who do you have coming out of in the hunt? I think the Rams really are the only team that comes out of that category in either the AFC or the NFC. I think the Rams are the only one.
I think so. You already weighed in on Buffalo, Detroit. Just give me a quick weigh in, if you would, on the Rams and the 49ers. I think it's very tough for the Rams to have an emotional a win like they did last week against Buffalo, and then 3 days later they go up. Watch the 49ers now. They might all of a sudden get their foot on the gas. I think that's a tough game for LA.
It is a tough game for LA for sure, Pat.
Yeah. All right, Sal Pal, I dragged you out here for as long as I could. I appreciate you taking all this time from NovaCare, and thank you very much. We look forward to the matchup show this weekend. Sal, I know you'll be down in South Philadelphia, and look forward to all your reporting from there. And thanks very much for joining me, all right?
I will be in the booth, the ESPN radio booth, calling the game with the incomparable Steve Levy. My first time calling a game in Philadelphia at Lincoln Financial Field.
Way to go. Congratulations to that. Look forward to your Ray Scott-like tones and your Paul Christman diction.
for 12 yards off the line.
That's it. You got it. You got it down. Way to go.